discussing about operating systems and their types. As I have already discussed about the system software, what is a system software and what is an operating system, today my main focus will be on their types and what are their responsibilities, why operating system is necessary. Today we will discuss these things. So let's get started with the operating system. First, let me write system software, also known as an OS. So here, a system software is uh, that type of software which is uh, responsible for managing low-level hardware implementations, or low level means all those bit manipulations where we are required to play with those bits or binary digits, all those high and low states uh, of those electronic components, those integrated circuits. Then we are required to use some kind of system software. If we are talking about uh, an embedded system, like say this is an embedded system. What is an embedded system? An embedded system is a minimal structure of a one Neumann architecture, basically one Neumann architecture, because I have already said that Harvard architecture is not that much popular and popular in all senses. So we will only consider the one Neumann architecture. Let's say this is an embedded board, IoT board, and we have a CPU here, inbuilt RAM, which is hardly soldered or hard soldered. CPU, the RAM, and the primary memory. I'm writing this as RAM. This is the CPU and external memory as SD, or secondary memory as SD. And now we have input. Input is, this can be anything like a keyboard, all those stylish mini keyboards. Let's say we have a keyboard. So this is being an input. You can supplement this system by a mouse. You can use a mouse. If we are not using a mouse, there could be requirements that where the keyboard is only required, mouse is not required. In that case, we will require some kind of output device. Let's say this is a 7-inch display, LCD display. 7-inch LCD display, and this is connected uh, to this system, integrated with this system, in this system through those buses, those system data and address buses, as I discussed in my earlier video. So this is, let's say this is an embedded system, an embedded IoT board, or simply a credit card sized pocket computer. So here we have there will also be a BIOS, but not in that much, not that much mature, a basic kind of BIOS, because this system is also basic, minimal structure of our desktop motherboard. So the BIOS will be also the minimal version of the full-fledged BIOS, not the full-fledged BIOS. So we need some kind of operating system here, because without having any operating system, we will not be able to make this bare computer hardware system of any work. If we don't have any operating system, we will not be able to use this computer system to perform some task. So in that case, we are considering that this is an ARM board. ARM is an architecture for a computer system. Yes, it is following one Neumann architecture, but still there are many subclasses like x86 architecture. These are called CPU ISA or CPU. This architecture we are talking about follows the CPU ISA, or instruction set architecture. So the board we are talking about, the CPU ISA is ARM, and the desktop and laptop, all those CPUs, they follow. They have the x86 or x64 ISA, CPU ISA, and in order to run some system, run some application or system software, you will have to comply with this architecture. If there is a mismatch of the architecture and the program you are targeting for, then they will not work. So let's say you have a program or application which is targeted to or written for the x86 ISA, then it will work on this architecture, this CPU architecture, and 64 architecture also. But the program you have that is targeted for only 64, this x64, then this will only run in the x64 architecture, because 86 means 32-bit instruction set, and 64 means 64-bit instruction set. So if you have a program written in targeted for 32-bit, suppose 32-bit, then that program will be also able to execute in x64 or 64-bit. But if you have a program which is written for 64-bit, then that will not be able to execute in 32-bit architecture. So that was extra knowledge for you. But here we are talking about ARM, so the CPU of ISA is ARM here. So in this case, we also, as I discussed now, you need to have a program or system which complies to those architecture, the corresponding architecture. So we have ISA of ARM, CPU ISA. So any program, call it application or system, that has to be supported by the ARM. Means if you writing a code, a set of statements or instructions, let's say we have this script or program, now we want to is written in A language. Now we have a compiler which understands this A language, and finally will convert it to the binary form or series of bits, let's say 10001. If this program written in A language gets compiled into this binary form, the output is this. Then this architecture, this also has to follow some architecture. So they are different, they are unique as per the architecture we are using. So for ARM, we need to design a compiler which is targeting this platform, this architecture. So it will compile to binary form, but for ARM architecture, this series of bits, this will be able to execute itself in ARM. So these bits, these series of binary digits, they will be supported by the ARM. Let's say we have a compiler which understands A, but it is also compiling to binary form, but targeted to x86, so 32-bit architecture. Then there will also some a binary output, but little different form, in a little different form. So the ARM architecture will not support this form. So we also need to take care of the compiler and also the platform we are targeting to. We are targeting to the ARM, architecture. One more thing, that is, when we are working, let's say this compiler and program, you are writing this program in a computer which supports x86 32-bit system, which is quite older. These days all systems, even your smartphone, is 64-bit. So this is a 32-bit system, and the compiler you are running on, the compiler you are also using, that is the compiler you are using, that is also being run on the x86 32-bit on the same system. You are working on this system, this hardware architecture CPU ISA, and we have written a program and compiling into and using a compiler where we are loading this program into this compiler. This compiler understands the A language, and this compiler is running on 32-bit system, and we convert it to basically, for most of the compilers, when they are when they are called a compiler, then they basically convert the binary form, sorry, compile to the binary form which belongs to the same architecture. It means when you are working on 32-bit architecture and using a compiler which is being run on 32-bit system, this is expected that the compiler will convert into the binary form which is targeted for this 32-bit system. There is one more term we have, that is cross compilation. Cross compilation is a kind of compiler program or translator program which does the same thing, but the only difference is that that is called cross compiler, because that will run on run on, let's say in this case we are running that compiler in 32-bit system, but the binary form which we are getting at the end of the compilation, that will target to some other system. That's why we are calling cross compilation. Means we are working on some different architecture but targeting to some other architecture. We are working on 32-bit or 64-bit system, CPU ISA, and the code we are getting at the end, the binary series, that is targeted to some other, let's say ARM or 64-bit, some other architecture, CPU ISA. So in that case, the program we are getting at the end will not be targeted for the same architecture. Means if it is a cross compiler, then this binary series, these bits, these are not supported by this architecture because this is targeted to the ARM. This is called cross compilation. So this was a glimpse of programming and compilation and CPU architecture, CPU ISA. But we are talking about, we are supposed to talk about system software and operating system. So now, if there is no operating system, then we will not be able to make this computer hardware useful. So for the as we are using the ARM here, so we need some kind of operating system or system software which is designed for the ARM architecture. Let's say we have a uh, Windows 10 ARM flavor or ARM version. So we will be installing Windows 10 ARM. As the name suggests, that a version of the operating system will be able to work on this architecture, designed for this architecture. If you are fond of Linux like me, then you will be using the Ubuntu flavor. We have Ubuntu for our ARM architecture. There are a lot of other flavors also of Linux. So this is the basic concept. Now let's talk about the operating system in more detail. The basic responsibility of operating system, the one is low or bit level manipulation. This is also called device management, or if you are not saying device management, that is also fine, because lower bit level manipulation means something which is more detailed, and device management or device manipulation means you are actually managing all those peripherals that are connected to the system. So that is a little different, that holds little different meaning than the low or bit level manipulation. That's why keep it separate. Device management, then process management, then security is also concerned. Security services, Now we are actually getting to the software part. File management. So these are the main responsibilities of an operating system. Low level or bit level manipulation means this is a complex electronic system. We have lot of components integrated together. There are lot of integrated circuits and lot of inputs and outputs of those integrated circuits. Like if we have this integrated circuit, let's say there are 7 pins both sides. 1 2 3 7 1 2 3 5 6 7. So 7 on the both side means 14 pin IC or a logic IC or any semiconductor device which has these pins, or the number can vary, will definitely vary. So we need to set these pins to high and low, like 1, sometimes 0 1 0 1 0. So these all playing with all these 1 0 1 0 and swapping those values, uh, operating system plays an important role here. This is called low level or bit level manipulation. So next is device management, which is the responsibility. It comes under the operating system's responsibility to manage all those devices, all those electronic components that are integrated together. Like it needs to take care of RAM, means the memory, the input output devices, all those graphics parts, and all those output devices and memories. So it has to take care of those things. Next is process management. What is process management? As I discussed earlier, first we have a bare computer hardware system, then the operating system sits on the hardware. This is the OS. And finally, applications will be running on the top of the operating system. Let's call it A, B, and C. So when we are talking about modern operating systems for our desktop and laptops, and even your mobile, then we are actually talking about time sharing operating system or multitasking operating system. They are called multitasking because we can we can run lot of applications together at the same time. That's why we are calling these operating systems, these types of operating systems, time sharing or multitasking operating systems. So this hardware is also divided into thousands of, even millions of parts. If we are going too deep, let's say there are thousands of parts, electronic components that are visible in bare eyes. This operating system also divided into thousands of modules. So they are all integrated together and forming the hardware system and the software system respectively, and they can communicate to each other without any restriction. Those modules can communicate to each other. While I will be teaching you the programming, then I will tell you how those modules communicate to each other by creating object of some class. They do the message passing. So similar things happen here. All those modules can communicate to each other without any restriction. And in these cases, in case of application software, they cannot communicate to each other. A cannot communicate to B cannot communicate to C easily or directly. We need to implement the concept of IPC. We have A, B, C, and these are separate applications. Now we will have to implement these are called apps or processes. An application is a process. So when they want to communicate to each other, if A wants to communicate to C, then we will have to implement the concept of IPC or inter-process communication. It means two or more processes they want to communicate to each other. We will have to implement the IPC. Again, that is not possible like this directly. A will have to ask to the operating system to make the connection, to form the connection with C. Means A will have to ask the operating system in order to connect to the C, or C will have to ask to the operating system to talk to B. So this is called IPC or inter-process communication. So they cannot directly communicate to each other. This operating system will be installed in the hardware in its SD card, ARM version of Windows or Ubuntu. Then we will be able to, then the operating system will come into action, and the basic responsibilities uh, which is followed, which is conducted by the operating system, they are these 5 points. These are main responsibilities of an operating system: low or bit level manipulation, device management, process management, security, providing security services. Like this, A cannot connect to the C, you will have to ask the operating system to connect to the B, things like that. And file management means you will have a lot of files saved in the SD card. Now it comes under your operating system responsibility to provide you those functionalities, those systems, those solutions. By using, you can access those data, your files. So this comes under the file management. And there will be also a network services. There are a lot of services. If we are talking about services, security is one, then comes the internet service. So we will see the types of operating systems. OS types. Mainly we are talking about, we classify the operating system types as batch operating systems, then multi processing, time sharing, or multitasking. Then comes RTOS, or real-time operating systems. So in case of batch operating system, you have the hardware here, the CPU, RAM, all those parts, the operating system itself, and you will have many tasks or process: task 1, task 2, task 3, and you will have not only these 3 tasks. Let's say you have 300 of tasks, and their nature, there will be many tasks sharing the same nature. Like say we have 100 tasks which falls under the same category. So there will be an operator, a program, for most cases a person who is called an operator, or you can also make use of a program also for the replacing the human, the operator. Let's say we have 100 applications of same nature, of same type. So they will be grouped in one type, in one category, or a pool, task pool, known as task 1, and this arrangement will be done by an operator. Similarly, we have 50 tasks of this nature, so he will group those tasks into the second category. Have these 7 to 8 tasks which shares the same category. So these arrangements will be done by all the sorting of the task. This will be done by an operator whose responsibility is to find all those tasks of same nature and ultimately group them into categories. So we have many tasks, but we have 3 categories of tasks. Now they will be loaded into the operating system, and now the operating system will perform this task in batch. So this is also known as a batch. Batch will be loaded by the operating system further to the CPU. So these are not those operating systems that we use in our laptop or desktop or in mobile. This is a batch operating system that we do not use in our daily life. But one kind of operating system you should know. Multiprocessing means a system. We have a system. Let's say we have this hardware, motherboard, where we have more than one processor. Let's say we have 3 CPUs, and the operating system in the middle, and we have many tasks to do, many processes. So we will load them all into the OS. So now the OS will see that the hardware that the OS is residing on has it got actually 3 processors, 3 CPUs. So we have 3 over 6 processes of 6 tasks. So it will do this task like that, 2 2 2. So and load to the dedicate to the processor. So each processor will be running or executing 2 tasks. So it is actually making use of all those processors. A system with 3 processors, so 3 CPUs. OS will dedicate, will make a group of 2 tasks, and again will create a job, batch, and at the end it will dedicate that batch to each CPU. So 6 tasks becomes 3 batches for 3 processors. So each processor will be executing 1 batch, which also means 2 processes or 2 tasks. So this is also not for our laptop, desktop, and all smartphones. This is for server computers where we have multiple processors. Time sharing and multitasking, this is the operating system that we use in our daily life. Time sharing and multitasking means we can run many applications at the same time together. Like we are running Office, and at the same time we are listening to music using the media player or running calculator. All those applications are being executed at the same time. But there is a trick, that is, let's consider this hardware. We have a processor, one processor. This is the ordinary motherboard that we use in our daily life for PC, laptop, and smartphone. So this is a basic motherboard, basic system, hardware system, and we have the the time sharing or multitasking operating system residing on this hardware. And now we have apps, A, B, and C. This is A application, this is B application, this is C application. Now it's the responsibility of this time sharing operating system to dedicate the processing power and the memory for each task. And you can run all these tasks, all these processes or apps together at the same time, but actually it will do a switching. Switching is a process, is a concept of dedicating the CPU power, processing power, and the memory to each of the processes in a short, in a you can say a short means milliseconds or microseconds. Sorry, it will be microseconds. So every those small spans, it will dedicate the CPU power, the processing power, and the memory to the next application. First, let's say this starts with this application, it will give it 2 microseconds. Then again, after completing 2 microseconds, it will switch to the next application. Again, it will give this dedicate the power for 2 microseconds. After completing that also, it will switch to the next. So there could be any number of other applications, provided that the RAM is capable of handling and processor is also capable of handling all those applications together. We can run all the applications at the same time, provided that being said that the time sharing, that's why this is called time sharing, because it is actually sharing time by implementing the switching concept. First, it will dedicate the power to this application. After a small time span, it will switch to the next application and again the next application. And this short time span is generally it ranges in microseconds. So this is about time sharing and multitasking operating system. Next, this is a system that we use in our daily life. Then we are coming to the RTOS. RTOS means real time operating system. Real time. What is real time? Real time means these operating systems will be running very few apps on it. Means if this is the hardware, have the operating system which is an RTOS. It will be interacting with the hardware and the apps. Let's say we have few number of apps, very few numbers of apps. Let's say we have only 3 apps, A, B, C. In the previous examples, I also drawn 3 apps, but this could be a large number of applications running on it. But in case of RTOS, there will be very few numbers of applications. Let's say only 3 apps are running on it, and this is designed in such way that it will take the very small amount of time to respond to any application running on it. It means real-time operating system means if B has to do something with the hardware, then RTOS will listen to that application. Means in shorter words, let's say this application B, it requires immediate attention from the operating system. Let's say the operating system is giving time to A. If we consider the time sharing and multitasking architecture or types of operating system, then it will first dedicate to an application, then after some time it will switch to the next application. But RTOS is designed in such way that the A, B, C, any application can get quick attention from the RTOS. They will not have to wait for their turn. They will not have to wait for their own turn. So when my turn will come and I will communicate to the operating system, that's not like that. The application will get immediate response from the RTOS. Let's say in real-time operating system is used for critical applications like missile launching systems, all those defense systems where we cannot waste time, where we have to take immediate action. Let's say if this is a missile control system or defense mechanism where we need immediate action. If someone is doing some attack to us, then we will have to, let's say it's the B's responsibility to monitor that thing, that if someone is attacking us. If we put this thing simple, a simple example can be given. Let's consider our radar system. Let's say this is a radar system which is rotating, which is scanning for rotating around or scanning for the enemy, whoever in our range. If there is anyone in our premise or in our locality or in our regime, in our military facility, then let's say it's the responsibility of the B application to manipulate this task. Again, this hardware will be connected to this hardware. It cannot directly control these things. This will have to connect to this hardware, this radar system, using this hardware only. But if there is someone who is just 1 second ago entered into our premise, then we will have to take immediate action. In that case, we will get response from the operating system instantly without waiting. If this was a time sharing or multitasking or some other kind of operating system, then we will have to wait for its own turn, and as the turn comes, the other one will be attacking, will be already destroyed the system. So this is our real-time operating system. So these are the basic types of operating system. So I know this example was not that much practical, but it is good to understand the basic concept when when considering these types of analogies, examples. So batch operating system is that operating system which is processing all those tasks in a batch by an operator whose responsibility is to group all those tasks into same category of not all those tasks of same nature, and group them to form a category, and then we will ultimately feed those batches, 1, 2, 3, whatever number of batches, to the operating system. For multiprocessing, there must be more than one CPU. Time sharing and multitasking is that operating system what we use in our daily life. RTOS is real-time operating system uh, and used for critical applications, which where the application needs immediate response from the operating system. So on the next session, I will discuss about mm, the internal functions, the kernel, the shell parts of an operating system. What is an operating system? And we already know what is an operating system. Next, on the next sessions, I will be discussing about if it is an operating system, then the core part is known as kernel. The outer part is known as shell. This part is known as shell, and this premise is this part is open for the available for the application software or apps, like those A, B, C, D, all those applications. They will be communicating to the shell, and the shell will be communicating to the kernel. Kernel is the main engine, like the engine. Your car has an engine, and the engine will provide some handles, some levers to control that engine, and the shell is an extra layer of abstraction where we will not have to control all those handles, levers by our own. So the shell is the abstraction to the kernel, means an extra layer on the kernel. If this is kernel, on the top of the kernel there will be shell, and on the top of the shell there will be apps. So this total thing is called operating system. So the kernel part and shell part is the operating system. It ends here, and the applications are running on the top of the application. So the kernel at the very low level, kernel is written in C language, an assembly language. For Linux, it is mostly C language, as it follows the Unix system. The kernel is totally written in C language, and there will be some mix of on the last layer of the kernel. It will have some assembly systems or assembly codes also. So assembly is the fastest language that comes after the hardware. The next abstraction is, the first software abstraction is program is the assembly language, then the C language, and putting these extra layers of abstraction, you are actually going to the higher level of language, and the language which is on the top of this abstraction is called the high level language, and the last language, the last language, or the first after the hardware level, the first abstraction is layer of abstraction is the assembly language. So in this case we have shell, this is the shell is the, as the name suggests, shell is the shell. First we have this kernel will be interacting with the shell, so it has many handles, many low level handles or levers to manipulate the operating system. So we cannot manipulate, we cannot control all these handles of kernel manually or directly. So this is the kernel part. Then comes the shell part. Shell will have less numbers of handles. So as we can see, there are a lot of handles in the kernel, and the shell also have those handles, but it has a few numbers of handles. So after the shell we have apps. So very few handles. Again the handles they get reduced. So at the end we are running applications which is only required to handle one lever, and which will again in the shell part will be converted into two levers, and that is converted into many levers. So this is the abstraction where the things getting easier. Let's say this is our kernel. Kernel will have lots of handles. These handles are nothing but, all the kernel itself is an engine for the operating system. So it will, as the any ordinary engine provides you the gear lever, the brake, accelerator, the steering, and many controls to control that engine. Similarly, the operating system kernel, which itself is an engine, so it will also provide you many handles. But and at the bottom of the kernel, we have the bare computer hardware. So if we are only using the kernel and we want to manipulate, and this part is even more complicated. The kernel is controlling the hardware, and as I said, it's the operating system's responsibility to control the total hardware system in low level, or doing all those low level bit manipulation stuffs. So it will have, the hardware will even provide you thousands of handles, or 10,000s of uh, more than that. So you cannot handle all those handles manually. So you will have to make use of the software. That's why the kernel is here. This is a part of the core part of the operating system. Now the kernel it is providing you this number of handles, which is again very much complicated for the human being to do task accurately or efficiently. So we will have to put or add an extra layer of abstraction, which is called as shell. Now the shell will provide you fewer handles. As you can see, at the first we have many handles. Then after adding the kernel layer of abstraction, we have few levers or handles, and after adding shell we have even lesser amount of handles. So now if we are running application on shell, we will only have to deal with these two handles or three handles, but which is get converted here. Only two handles we are controlling through an application, but in behind the scenes we are actually controlling 4 to 5 handles. So without the shell abstraction, we have to control these 4 to 5 handles using that application, which makes it difficult for the programming. And there API concept comes. The native API concept comes into the picture. So these handles are called APIs in good language, and the technical term for these handles is API, or application programming interface. So we will be programming this application to do some specific job you will need some kind of interface to do the desired task or process. So you will have to make use of these two APIs to actually run 4 to 5 APIs behind the scene, which will again in turn will be running a lot of APIs, or let's say 15 to 20 APIs to control the hardware. So this is the basic picture, but this is very much complex. Complex in the sense I am just drawing here uh, 15 to 20 levers, but it will number the number will be in thousands, 10,000s, even. Uh, there are a lot of APIs. If we are it also depends on the system. If the system, if we are talking about a Linux distribution, which only the which size is only 60 MB, like damn small Linux, that will not have so much APIs. That will only have the kernel and the shell, the smallest kernel and the smallest shell. Just only the required modules that are required to run a basic one human architecture computer system. All the controlling means we only need those modules to control the primary memory, the CPU, the basic input output like keyboard and mouse, and SD or HDD SSD cards for memories. So these 4 to 5 modules, I'm just giving you an example. Uh, in this case, we only need to make use of 4 to 5 modules. So this will be the smallest kernel, because itself this operating system size is 60 MB. So it will only have only those required modules that are required to run a basic computer system. If we are talking about the the minimal computer system, so the kernel will be also minimal, the shell, the respective shell will be also minimal, will lesser amount of handles or APIs, and the apps will also have less options, less APIs to manipulate all those hardware level things. So this is the thing. On the next sessions, we will be talking about the same thing in more detail, and then we will be talking about uh, how we actually have seen the kernel part, the shell part, and how they do communicate, interact with each other using those handles, which handles are the technical terms for those. The technical term for those handles is also known as API, application programming interface. And application programming interface are those handles. By using them, we are actually running an application on the top of it and making use of those handles to interact with the hardware. And this thing goes through the levels of abstractions. The first one will be if we are talking if we are considering the application side, then the first level of abstraction will be the shell part, then the kernel, and then the hardware itself. So this is the thing. On the next session, we will see these things in more detail. We will again discuss the same things, and we will see how to do the programming, and then we will start with the programming and few theory parts also. So now let's end this session here. Thank you for being with me for a long time. Thanks for watching.